Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rosco Live on Clubhouse. This is the Entertainment Design Club. It's a space created for anyone interested in live entertainment, lighting, and scenic design. And we encourage you not only to join the club, but to also welcome you to host social or education conversations here and connect with others in the entertainment design community. We've had some really amazing guests in this series so far, and I think we're all in for a real treat today with the Proptologist himself, Jay Duckworth. We will be opening up the stage a little later and inviting anyone to ask questions, and we are recording as well. I would like to introduce our host, Chad Tiller, the VP of Live Entertainment here at Rosco. And I'm going to turn that over to you to introduce our guest and get this conversation started.
Thank you, Nikki. Appreciate the introduction. And to echo what Nikki said, if you're not already a member of the Entertainment Design Club, if you look at your screen where we're having this conversation, you tap that little green house above the title, right next to where it says Entertainment Design Club. Tap that house, give us a follow. We'll bring you in as a member. We'd love to have folks in here. And we encourage everybody who's active here on Clubhouse to create rooms and have educational and informational conversations in the club. We created this for the design community, and it's not limited to Rosco. But today's conversation is a Rosco Live, and we are absolutely delighted to have today's guest. He's a props master and a props designer, Mr. Jay Duckworth. Lin-Manuel Miranda called Jay a props shaman, but as Nikki already told us, Jay self-identifies as the proptologist. Insert all your snicker jokes here. Jay boasts over 35 years of experience at LORT and Off-Broadway theaters, independent films, television, music videos, and his residency at the Public Theater in New York City stretched over a decade. He's got over 65 off-Broadway shows that credit him as a props master or a props designer, including being the creative genius behind the props in a little-known musical called Hamilton, which I thought was a good show. I was surprised it wasn't more popular. When you aren't seeing his name in the program of all of these shows or many other productions, you'll see his byline as a contributing writer for Stage Directions magazine. You might find him teaching properties or teaching the philosophy of aesthetics at Pace University. You'll find his creations in his Etsy store, which is Proptologist. You might even find him on TikTok as Proptologist, and I strongly recommend you do that, where he opens up his Propmaster's cabinet of curiosities so frequently. He's been the keynote speaker at the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival. He's been the keynote speaker at the USITT. But today, he is the focus of this episode of Rosco Live. So with much adulation and fanfare, I welcome Mr. Jay Duckworth. Hey, Jay, how are you? And Jay, if you were responding to my "How are you?" you got on
I'm
mute.
I'm doing really great. No, I'm doing great. The only thing I was thinking with all those things that you said I did, it really sounds like I couldn't just hold a job.
well
he's done this and this and this, and
it's I gotta say well, maybe that's a good way to start. What was the trajectory? I mean, you had a 10-year residency at the Public. You certainly didn't start your career there. Where did you first fall in love with theater and and how did you know theatrical design was going to be your career?
I didn't. I started out, as most of us do, as a performer in a community theater, and I thought that's all there was. And Alan Cutler took me under his wing. He's a prop master at George Street Playhouse, and I was working carpentry because I liked eating, and it was hard to eat as an actor. So I started doing props, and I just fell in love with it. The things that I found about props were history and research and building and crafting and creating. So all of these things were things that I really absolutely loved. And my mother was a painter and an artist, and my father worked construction. So all my life growing up, in farm country in Missouri, I had the opportunity to learn from both of them, and I had no idea that they were training me to be a prop master.
Wow. And so then you started as a props master at George Street. Is that when you landed there, or?
I started in summer stock at Berkshire Theater Festival. Alan took me up there to kind of train me, and then I came back as his assistant and was his assistant for a couple of years, and then took over the prop shop there, did some off-Broadway stuff, and then worked in some off-Broadway stuff in New York City, and then finally just went independent because it was the fire was hot, and I wanted to break into New York.
Now, is that common that props designers would be a freelance designer jobbing from show to show, or is it more common that they're in residency at a producing theater, or is it both?
Well, in LORT theaters, there's sometimes prop masters that are in residency. The thing that we're going to be seeing moving forward, unfortunately, Chad, is a lot more independent and freelancers. And a lot of us don't get design credit because we are prop masters. So we don't get a bio or a thing on the program. And we also don't get the pay that is reciprocated once that show goes on, because we are not, but with things changing going into freelancing, I hope we are able to change that, because we need to be able to, because we are freelancing just like the other designers, and we are artistic contributors. I feel that a lot of us have been passed over for a lot of our the work we do, and what we need to be is recognized. And since we're not getting insurance or health from any of these theaters, we should at least get a contract that allows us to put our name to it and get residuals, because it's about time. I remember where there wasn't even sound design. It was just, that didn't exist when I started out.
Right. No, it's absolutely. I've heard you speak on this topic before, and I know that it's absolutely both your passion and also just the right thing to do. It seems to me that there's a misunderstanding of the design artistry that goes into props.
The problem is we are what we do. If you are good at props, if you're a good prop master, you are not seen. You are not able to be seen. Your work has to be so seamless that no one can tell you were there. And that's the big difference between a great prop master and a bad props person. Things that aren't cared about, things that we don't look for details. When you know something's going wrong, that's when you know you don't have a good props person. Or like a Steve Shelley, an incredible lighting person. I hope Steve's here.
Steve is here. He's in the audience.
Of course, that's why I had to say that.
And by calling Steve out, I will remind our audience, we are going to have an opportunity to do Q&A. There's a raise your hand function in the lower part of your screen. When we open it up for Q&A, if you've got a question for Jay, just raise your hand. We will pull you up onto the stage, at which point you'll have the ability to unmute yourself. While you're in the audience, you'll remain muted. And then when you come up to the stage, we'll allow you to ask some questions for Jay. But before we do that, Jay, I'm circling back to this thing. I think what would help, well, I don't know what would help. I know what would help is people doing the right thing and giving you guys the credit you deserve. But one of the things I want to tap into here is, what exactly is a prop? I mean, when does the scenic design stop and the prop start, or the costume design stop and the prop start, or what have you? How do you define a prop?
A prop is the thing I can say. The thing that I can say about it is when you're moving into a new apartment or you're moving into a new place, everything that you have to load into that place. The apartment itself is the set, the clothes you wear on your back are the costumes, and everything that makes that place yours are props. The lighting fixtures are props. The magical lighting people make the lights go on. Sound has to work with props. Lighting has to work. We work together with props. We work together with the set people. We work together with the costume people. Sometimes there is crossover, and those things are known as propstumes, which are like something that is like a bag or a tie or a watch or glasses. So how we deal with those, or it depends if it's a costume or a prop. The other thing is for sound. If you have a radio or if you have a cell phone, you might have to hide a speaker somewhere. You might have to hide a microphone somewhere, and it has to be off of that set. It used to be a lot easier when we just had the buttons that you could push that would make a phone ring. But things have gotten a lot more sophisticated, and we have to up our game with that as well. So being in props, you have to learn a little bit about every department so that you are able to work seamlessly with all of them.
I also think that, what did you call it, propstumes?
Propstumes.
Propstumes are going to be, that's the backup singer in your doo-wop band. So it's Jay Duckworth and the Propstumes, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that idea. I will be your baritone / tenor 2 in the Propstumes whenever you're ready.
Perfect.
So circling on this idea that you have to know everything, forgive the naivete of this question, Jay, but what goes into the selection of a sword, for example?
Everything. everything. And I it would be incredibly egotistical of me to say I know everything. What I think I should say or justify that with is saying I know a little bit of a lot of things, but I also know people who know more. So that's how I can get more information. But choosing a sword, you have to, like, if we're doing a Shakespeare, we have to have a time period. Because Shakespeare could be done in Shakespeare. We could do it in Cuba now, or when Castro started, or we could do it in the future. So your sword would really depend on what the needs of the sword are, and by that I mean, is it fight worthy, or is it just a hanger, which means it just hangs off somebody, the same as someone who holds a spear carrier. Like a guard. Does it have to fight? Does it have to have a good sound to it? Is it steel or is it aluminum? What kind of hits is it going to get? Is it going to be hit up against a wall? Does it have to do tricks? Is it also going to be dropped a lot? So we have to check the welds and make sure that there are no welds, that it is a one piece of steel instead of a blade that is attached to a tang that goes through the handle, because those are very dangerous. So given all those factors, we have to find out what the actor can handle, whether they're left-handed or right-handed, even though people traditionally fight right-handed. We also have to find out if they're going to have a dagger with that sword or if they're going to have a buckler. And then we have to deal with what kind of a hanger that they have on their costume to hide the sword, or is the sword on the part of the set where it's taken down. So you have to think of all of those things. And then, Chad, and then, sir, you have to get the approval of your actor, you have to get the approval of your designer, and then you have to make sure your budget is correct so that your actor, designer, and director, and you're able to budget it and pay for it correctly. So all those factors go in.
And I want to point out to the audience that I did not prepare Jay that I was going to ask that question. That's just how thorough a props designer has to be. And it's amazing to me, whenever you and I have spoken about things like this, I'm always fascinated with the quantity of sort of it's not just as easy as going into the closet and grabbing, one of the swords in the bucket in there and just handing it off, and now that's your prop. Which maybe is how it was done at the high school level or the college level at some smaller programs.
Oh, it's still done. It's still done at professional level. It's done at professional level where people are just like, nah, sword.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you're collaborating with a director or a scenic designer, costumer, whomever it is that you're collaborating with, the actor, in these collaborations, can you give us an example of a prop that presented a unique challenge, and then how did you solve that? Whether it's the script or one of your colleagues that offered the idea.
Let's go with the burn letter from Hamilton when Eliza, when they sing "Burn." We wanted to. I don't know why we had it in our mind that we were just going to go ahead and use a small fogger and actually LEDs from you guys inside the bucket, and it was all going to be remote. And we did it for the first time in front of Tommy Kail and Lynn and everybody on stage, and the coal scuttle itself, the front of it was lined with a piece of metal that I had cut and formed so that whatever she did light could go down there and be extinguished. And then the rest of it was open that the stuff could go into. And our stage manager, James Latis, was like, why don't we just burn it? It seems like a lot easier if we just burn it. And so we decided to burn it. So then we had to go into the process of weighing paper and timing paper to make sure that it goes out exactly before the song ends. So it burns brightly because it's a blue lit scene. It's a cold lit scene. And then the lights go out. So that paper had to stop at a certain time. Plus, it couldn't have to be light enough that when it got moved, the ashes would get knocked out of the bucket. Plus, we needed to make sure that they were the lamp that she was carrying had backup matches in it, as well as strikers in case it went out on stage. Because if the candle goes out on stage during burn, she does have nothing to burn. So it was that suggestion that. They just trigger things, I think
Wow.
We prepare for disaster. We prepare for every disaster because we don't want to ever put somebody in a bad place because they're going on stage naked. We have to be able to support everybody out there.
Yeah, that's for those who maybe don't know Hamilton, congratulations on being the person who doesn't. Because I think there's only one person who doesn't know it. But if you haven't seen it, you have the ability on Disney Plus to stream the entire musical there. And Jay, you've had other work that's available to be streamed. I know the John Leguizamo Latin History for Morons, I think is the name of it. That's your work that transferred uptown and has now been videoed, and that's on Netflix. I want to talk a little bit about that transfer process. When you do a show off-Broadway that then moves to Broadway, they carry the original design with it, and certainly the design team travels with it. Now, I know you were just speaking about the role of a props designer and the credit of a props designer, so maybe you don't physically transfer with the production, but does your art go?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It goes into a box, and they move it uptown, and then somebody unboxes it, and then it's their work.
Wow.
Yeah. You think you're shocked? Wait till the first time I heard that. I was like, are you effing kidding me? And that's why I want to be such an advocate for us, because it just seems that our intellectual property is being stolen. And there's a lot of people who take it, and I don't know.
And I mean, we know that the Disney Plus streaming version of Hamilton was up for awards. It was nominated for Golden Globes and things of that nature, and you don't get that credit, do you?
Well, no. Denise Guerrillo does, and she is incredible, and she's the one who took it over. And her and Zoe have reworked a lot of things, because also it did have to go out on tour, but she's not getting credit. Zoe's not getting credit. It's just it's mind it's mind bottling. That's right, mind bottling, is it?
Mind bottling.
I know. It makes my mind all bottled up and crazy.
Yeah. So, when a show transfers and they take your art and move it uptown and somebody unboxes it, do you get phone calls about how things work or how things are supposed to be used or things of that nature? Or is it
sometimes,
sort of thank you for the box and see you later?
We also make a Bible that has everything in it, where it goes, what we got, where we got it from, how much it cost, what the availability was, where it goes on set, how many we go through a week, how much they cost. So all this information is sent in a book up to them. And if they do have questions, which the Leguizamo history for Latin history for morons did have some questions, and they contacted us. And but it's tough. But you also get the people like John Lithgow, who when we did that steak for him, that I did this watermelon steak for Lithgow.
Yeah, you might need to tell the story because I don't know who all knows this. This is an apocryphal Jay Duckworth story, but it's worth telling the whole thing.
Well, he was doing King Lear at the park, and he wanted this big steak for eating outside. And because it was average temperature on that stage was over 90 degrees when they were rehearsing during the day, and then it's hot in the evening. So we had to have something up there that he could eat but wouldn't spoil, and also he could wet his palate. And so we were thinking tofu, we were thinking all these other things that we could do. And my assistant Polina Minchik brought in a watermelon, and I noticed on the plate that the watermelon was giving off that liquid, that colored liquid. And then I asked her if I could get some icing tint behind her that we use for drinks. And then I painted the slice of watermelon into a steak, like a steak shape, and then painted it. And we made that for him. And we took it up to him, and I got the biggest compliment in my career when he said, I hope my performance is as good as the steak. And what happened is when he did Beatrix at Dinner, the film, they were all eating steaks, and they were serving steak, and Lithgow stopped, and he was like, no, what you need to do is you need to call Jay Duckworth at the Public Theater and find out what he did for his watermelon steak. And they called me up. I had no idea who they were. I told them what they did, and then he mentioned it on the Chew, and I was just blown away that I got some recognition, or that a prop person got recognition for work they did.
Man, and I love that story, and for those who want to know more about it, I mentioned at the top of the show Jay's TikTok, Proptologist. You can find a little bit of it on there. I believe there was a stage directions article about this, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I am mistaken.
There was a mention, but it's also on my proptologist.com, my website.
Perfect. I mean, I know there's a little, if you'll even pardon an even worse pun, tongue-in-cheek about Proptologist. Did that come from anywhere in specific, or is that just you being Jay?
That was me being cheeky. Get it? What I did is I needed something so people would remember me. And I've always been kind of on the rude side or cheeky side because I loved Benny Hill and I loved those British films from the late 70s where, the innuendos were everywhere. And I made a card that said Proptologist, and that was I think that was one of the main reasons that people remembered me, because it struck them so funny. And that was a way for people to remember me and what I did. So that was why I picked that title. and leaned into it so heavily. It was just a way of doing not marketing. What is that? When you try to,
it's your self-branding, right?
Branding. Yep, that's it. Branding.
Yeah, good. So what was it when you started the creative process on what I think we can argue, and people might argue with me on this, but we might argue that it is the most successful musical of the past 50 years in Hamilton, certainly of the past decade. When did you know it was going to be a hit?
The first time we did it for backers and a workshop, I started crying, and I went up to Oscar Eustace, our artistic director at the Public, and we were both crying. And he said, "It's that good, right?" And I said, "No, it's not that. It's like I never have been in the room where I knew we were changing the face of our industry." And the thing is I've worked with Sondheim, and I worked with Arthur Lawrence, the guy who started Sondheim's career, and I've worked with all these theater royalty. Starting my career out, I've been very, very lucky. And again, that's why I went into teaching, because I've had so many benefits that if I don't give back, I would feel I did a moral misgiving. But with all of these people that I've worked with, I knew that there was something so electric about this thing that I couldn't put my finger on it. And I told people, I said, "You've got to get tickets. You got to get tickets now. And if you don't, you'll be sorely disappointed."
So I will admit, you are absolutely correct. You told people that. I was a person to whom you told that to, and I went. We were there in the lobby of the building at 425 Lafayette. We were there talking. We had wrapped up our conversation, and you said, "Go right now to that box office and buy your tickets." And I walked over to the box office, and I got in line, and I was looking at my iPhone, and I pulled up the calendar, and I'm looking at dates that I think I might be able to go see the show. But I knew that my wife was teaching night classes for college, and you've met Janie 100 times. And
I love Janie, yeah.
Janie's the best. And so I knew better than to just pluck a date in the calendar and buy tickets. I would wait to discuss it with her, but she was in a meeting and I couldn't call her right then. So I didn't get the tickets when you told me to. And by the time I got around to talking with her and calling back to the box office, everything downtown was sold out.
Yep.
We finally got to see it uptown, but it was that hot second. And if I had listened to Jay Duckworth, this is the advice for anybody listening to this conversation. If you listen to Jay Duckworth, you will not regret things later in life.
It's true.
There it is.
It's absolutely true. Leslie Odom Jr. has this wonderful story about his friend in line where Joel Grey was in front of him. And he and Joel Grey were talking a little bit. He's like, "Oh, I'm in theater. My friend plays Burr." And Joel Grey's like, "Oh, I can't wait. It's I've been waiting to see this thing." And Joel Grey goes up to the box office and says, "2 tickets, Joel Grey." And they look for his tickets, and then the box office manager comes over and is looking, and finally he's like, "Oh, here's your tickets, Mr. Grey. Here you go. I'm sorry for your wait." And Joel Grey turns around to the guy and is like, and mouths to him, he's like, "I didn't have tickets."
But
I mean,
made
when
it
you're
happen.
Joel Grey. Oh, yeah, you're Joel Grey.
Right. You know why he got tickets is because nobody puts a Grey in the corner.
Exactly.
All right. So you teach a class that has the most intriguing title, The Philosophy of Aesthetics. Can you tell me a little bit more about this class?
It's how I named my props class, because it's not just props. It is the study of it's the study of the history of objects, as well as does it belong there? So we're trying to figure out the Fibonacci sequence and the golden mean so that I can help mathematically show my design students that the space that we occupy is as important as the space that we leave open.
That's deep, brother. That's good.
It's a prop. I tell them you'll learn props secondary. Props are just a part of this class, but it really is about finding your individual voice and distilling your style down to where you have your own particular thumbprint. And from that thumbprint, you will finally be recognized as an individual designer. And that's hard to do, but I mean, if we look back at Hal Binkley, I mean, Hal, you knew his show when you saw it. You knew his style. Someone who you named a color for, Jennifer Tipton.
Sure.
Incredible style. I'm just using lighting people right now, but I mean, if you see David Corins or
David Zinn.
David Zinn, my God, just like you can pick these people out, and you'll see perfect, like Rachel Hogg, like another great designer, but they have their own style, and you have to be able to be brave enough to fail many times in order to be able to find yourself.
So how do you make time in the compressed production schedule that the modern world forces us into? How do you create time to fail?
You have to. You just have to. You have to. I know this is ridiculous. And I told my brother this. My partner was just here and my brother said, "It's so nice seeing you relax." And I'm like, yeah, it's really good. But I have a clock. I have a 16th century clock that I restored in my room. And it runs on the exchanging weight of two rocks. And when I pull that down in the morning, it runs for 12 hours. And as long as that clock is ticking, I am working. And you have to understand, and I know you know this, and I know that other people listening know this, if you love what you do, it is not work. And we have to try other things. We have to get ourselves out of our comfort zone and live in the world of wonder. As children, we had so much to wonder about, and we had so much to just look at and discover, that if we fell, we scraped our knee and we realized, oh, when I fall, I gotta roll. Or this plant, if I eat it, will make me sick. So you have to be able to make those mistakes, or you will not grow. In the end, the mistakes are most important lessons. And I know a lot of people say you have to find yourself, but I think that's a very big lie, because we create ourselves. We shouldn't try to find ourselves. We need to become the person that the world needs and that we need. And doing that, you are able to fulfill the greatest destiny that you have, as a piece of the universe made into flesh for such a short time.
I'm speechless at the profundity of your statement, and I got to say, I'm so glad we're recording it so that I can personally go back and listen to this and soak it in. It's so rich. No, this is not me blowing smoke, Jay. This is the richness of your thought. You know, when you were talking about how you work every day for those 12 hours, I'm reminded of an interview I saw once with Jerry Seinfeld where he said, "I write every day."
Sorry.
Exactly. Because if he doesn't write every day, he won't get all of the bad ideas out. And he'll get down to where the good ideas live. And he has a calendar and he puts a big red X over the day. And every single day he writes comedy. And I think that, it's, if you want to be the best at what you're doing, developing that rigor and developing that work ethic. And a great way to do that is to work in regional and LORT theater, because they will force a work ethic out of you, or they will force you out of the work. And, that's the nature of it.
Another thing that I do that's totally ridiculous and totally redundant and totally stupid is if I'm painting a watercolor, I will paint two at the exact same time. I will paint two of the exact same design at the exact same time. And it's so that all my mistakes will be on the first one, and the second one will have the color tone, and the thing that I screwed up on the first one will not happen on the second one. And they both turn out really nice. They both have their great attributes, but it's just the ability to, and I don't know what made me start it, but I kind of try that a lot with other things. Is like when I do my drawings, I'll if I don't draw it out, I won't be able to picture it in 3D. And I've found out, being on TikTok, there are people who cannot think in 3D. They can't imagine something, and that is something that I can't even conceive. But there are people who can't imagine objects. And it's just that's just normally that's them. So I never realized how really absolutely lucky we are as artists to be able to have concepts and imagination, because there are some people who it is really impossible for.
Jay, I don't want to talk too long because I want to make sure that Nikki has a chance to refresh the room and give the Q&A. Nikki, will you do us a favor and reset, and we maybe will step into Q&A if folks have questions?
Absolutely. Thanks, Chad. I'm really super enjoying this conversation, Jay. It's been very inspirational thus far.
Well, here's another source of inspiration. Ready? Fortune cookie time.
No.
Your constant struggle for you constantly struggle for self-improvement. Fortune cookie 1.
Holy cow! That's
Weird.
So for people who have no idea what's going on, which involves about probably 90% of the people in the room, Jay has 3 fortune cookies sitting there on his desk, and he intended to open each one of them during the conversation at a random moment. The first fortune cookie, for those who missed it, Jay, what was the first fortune cookie again?
First fortune, which is really kind of crazy and fortuitous, says, you constantly struggle for self-improvement. And our lucky numbers are 51, 45, 19, 26, 42, and 18.
Well, considering that that's exactly the topic we were talking about,
Isn't that fucking crazy?
I think somebody ought to play those lucky numbers on the lotto tonight. Nikki, we're going back to you to reset the room and open up Q&A.
Yes, we are going to open up the room here in just a moment for some questions. So you can hit the little hand there at the bottom of your page if you have any questions. I do want to say that we are recording this conversation for posterity, and that if you do raise your hand, you are acknowledging consent to be recorded. Okay, back to you, Chad.
Thanks, Nikki. And for those who are interested in participating, like she said, raise your hand. She will pull you up onto the stage, and then we'll call on you to make sure there's no breaks in the conversation. Jay, I gotta say, man, one of the stories that sticks out to me is the chalk dust from John Leguizamo's one-man show, Latin History for Morons. I watched it on Netflix, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, if everything that is moved into the apartment, everything that's on the set that is not there as part of the scenery, well, we've got a chalkboard, we've got a bunch of chalk, and then there's a moment where he puts chalk dust over a portion of his body. We'll leave that up to the folks watching the show as to figure out where. But there's a cloud of dust. How does an actor give a monologue in a cloud of chalk dust?
Well, it is actually cornstarch, because we could not make it chalk, because it would take up way too much time, and also it's a lot safer, because cornstarch is one of the bases in talcum powder, because talc actually would not be good, and chalk would not be good because of its molecular structure, and going into someone's throat as an inhalant would be very, very troublesome.
Right. So when you were encountering this moment where he's going to rub.
Oh, we lost you. Where he's.
I got a phone call right there. He's gonna bang the erasers together or whatever, and he's sitting in a cloud of chalk. You're met with the need to address the safety concerns. That's part of the jurisdiction of a props artisan.
And then it also happened whenever we do Midsummer Night's Dream, and the puff of smoke from the flower to put people to sleep and to wake them up is always kind of tough. A lot of times we use holy powder, which is the powder that is ground up rice with heavy colorant in it, just so it stands out on stage. So we have to use like a fight choreographer to show like how where we're shooting that powder so that it's not directly into someone's face.
Right. Are there? Wait, I was going to ask a follow-up question, but I'd rather go to an audience member who's got a question. I see Abby is here. Abby, what you got for us?
Hi, Abby. Do you have a voice filter on? Because you sound like you are from Planet O. Oh, there you go. Try it there.
Okay. Anyway, what would you recommend that someone younger, like around my age, if they wanted to start in props and doing what you do, how would you recommend they start?
That's a really great question. I don't know your age, so I'm going to guess teens or late teens. Is that okay?
I was going to guess mid-40s, but you're probably more accurate, Jay.
Yeah, in the teens.
Okay. What I would do is I would start start building projects in crafts that you enjoy working with, and taking pictures of them during the process of build, and keeping those when they're done, and lighting them for what they look like on stage. Or create props from different shows that you want to create, and take pictures of those so you can build up a website portfolio of here's the prop, here's the process, here were the challenges I was given, and this is what I did. And then try as many diverse things as possible. You try to look for something that is the polar opposite of something else. So let's say if you want to do sewing, also do carpentry. If you do carpentry, work on lighting, like wiring, so that you have a diverse cross-section of skills, so that when you're brought into a shop and one project is drying, you can work on another project and make yourself as valuable for the price that you're getting paid as possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Abby, you're my new best friend.
I love that, and I love the concept of sharing these tips with younger artisans or artists who are craftspeople who are trying to get better. Jay, you've got a real passion for sort of sharing with the next generation. I will do a plug if you are interested in that. Get on TikTok and follow Jay on TikTok. I only downloaded TikTok so I could follow Jay on TikTok at the Proptologist. He's the only account I follow.
Thank you.
It's absolutely fantastic. But I'll stop talking because we've got another guest here, Asia. Hi, Asia. How are you?
Hey, Chad. Hey, Jay. It's so good to hear you all.
Same, Asia. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Jay, it's always great to hear you and get your advice. So thank you so much for doing this conversation.
Thank you.
All right. I have a question, and it comes from having had the joy of working with you. For anyone in the room, Jay is an incredible colleague and person to work alongside during tech. Jay, you're always so prepared and pretty dedicated to like tasks at hand, what needs to be on stage, when does it need to get on stage. But you also have created a lot of space in your department for generosity and kindness and compatibility with other crews. Could you talk about how you go about, setting up your department and how your philosophy of management and how you run it?
How incredible are you? Thank you so much. That's so kind. The first thing, the thing that I think is most important is, like I said, failure. And if you make your co-workers feel that they can fail, they are going to be as honest as they can with you. And if you have an environment where you feel supported enough, that no one talks about anybody, that we don't tolerate where people kind of talk about other people. Those things are very important. And you also have to honor other departments' work and try to get them information the earliest you can. Because there's nothing more disrespectful than having someone wait on you and your work. So it's really important you get that stuff over to them. It's also incredibly important that you bring in diversity. I would say 90% of our shop were women, and then we try to make sure that our interns were people from very diverse backgrounds so that we could stop the gatekeeping of just young white people, or not necessarily white, I'm sorry, people who were affluent enough, who had enough money to come to New York to get paid what they paid for internships. So we helped find grants and scholarships for them, because it's important that we have a room where there is a definite pecking order, so everyone knows their place, because someone above you has to teach you. And because of that hierarchy, you are mentored through your working situation, and it's not a struggle of who's doing better in the shop. It is always a struggle of, let me raise you up, because this raises all boats. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. If I may add a follow-up question, is that all right, Chad?
Please.
How would you find encouragement for me, for other people who are listening, but what are some ways for people to break that line between intern and make that next step? Is it mentorship? Is it what kind of avenues are there for the new people coming in as interns to make that next step into, capital P professional profiteer?
A profiteer? I love that.
Yeah.
I think what it is that just I know this sounds so simple, but it's not. for me, it was like coming out of the closet. It was just accepting who you are and becoming who you are in your head, and go in, leave that world behind. People are very safe in that training mode. And you have to accept that you are good, that you have talents that you exceed in, and you need to just be able to present as a professional and smile along with everyone and show up early, and be fun to work with. And honest to God, show up early, be fun to work with, and do good work, and you will have work for the rest of your life. And that's it. But I think we, with unpaid internships and how we try to cheapen people's work to get more work with less money, we have downplayed the arts, and we have been the arts itself has been mean to its people, the people who create it. And we have to stop that. We have to build people up, because inside of those people is a vulnerability that if we crush, they are no longer going to feel safe to do their art. So what we need to do is we need to nurture people and stop competing. Because there's no winning in competing. There is no winning in competing. If we raise each other up, we shine.
That's beautiful, Jay. I have never heard someone give that advice, to just let go and be you, and that is the first step. That is amazing. I'm so glad I asked you.
Thank you for asking a question. It's good seeing you.
And what I gotta throw out here is, if you're enjoying this dialogue, you really have to join us on Tuesday, June 8th.
What's Tuesday?
Tuesday, June 8th, when Asia Jackson takes the hot seat and gets to sit here at the next Rosco Live, where we will probably also talk more about kindness and work opportunities and talk about how to move up in this world called the arts. Thank you, Asia, for joining us today and for your awesome question.
Yes, thank you,
Asia.
Jay.
Oh, thank you, Asia.
Yeah.
Fortune cookie number 2. Do the right thing because it is right. Have the courage to face it. I kid you not. These are so spooky. These are right on.
That's
everyone that
gets fortune cookies.
I'm writing that down right now.
That is crazy town. Do the right thing because it is right. Have the courage to face it. That's so cool.
I love how it's fitting right in. Hey, Nikki, did you say that somebody raised their hand but hasn't come to the stage?
Yes, that would be our friend Steve Shelley. He, Steve, I'm gonna accept your hand raise. You just need to accept to become a speaker.
And that'll move you up to the stage, Steve. But while we're waiting for Steve to push those proper buttons in that proper order, my friend Joel has a question. Joel, how are you, man?
I'm good. Full disclosure.
You are, Joel. You are good.
I am. You know what? That's what I've learned in this conversation. I am good.
Good.
And, so full disclosure for the room, I work for Rosco. But before I worked for Rosco, I was a proppeteer. Thank you, Asia. I'm using that for the rest of my life. And recently, Jay, you probably don't know this, but... when you work for Rosco, people come ask you all sorts of crazy tech questions. And my buddy Tom reached out to me saying, hey, we want to buy a 3D printer. Which 3D printer should we buy? And I'm like, I don't know. And I went to Chad and I was like, hey, any ideas who might be able to help us answer this question? And Chad said, yeah, I'll float it by Jay. And then you were so good, you actually talked to my friend Tom about what 3D printer they should buy to build props, and thank you for that. I really appreciate it. But what that made me start thinking about was my days as a proppeteer and how, the painstaking ways we had to go, the things we had to... Sorry, now my phone rang, Chad.
Yeah.
And then... And now we have these things called 3D printers. And, and I just thought, wow, I never had a 3D printer to make props when I was a proppeteer. So the question I'm driving at is now we've got 3D printers, and I would love your thoughts on how that has changed the world of props making. But more importantly, I want to pick your brain as to what you think the next big piece of tech is that's going to make it even easier for proppeteers to make props. And that is my long story that led up to the question.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I loved your friends. They were really, really great, and we had some good conversations. I think that it is incredibly great that we embrace as much technology as we can so that we can interweave it. We should not fear technology because there will always need to be an artist to create what needs to come out of that machine that makes it for us. So we will always be guaranteed jobs. Believe the next thing that we should be looking at is video and integrating video and Pepper's Ghost, which I just did an article on in Stage Directions, which was how they brought Tupac back to the stage a long time ago, and Michael Jackson back to the stage after their deaths. We should also be looking into what we should do is look at our history, see where the trends are, and see if we can redevelop those so that we make a better mousetrap. Not recreate the past, but find how we can create something totally new out of the technology we had. We had the wheel for hundreds of years, and it was used as a pottery wheel. It took 300 documented years in Babylon before they took the pottery wheel and put it on its side. So, I mean, there may be things out there. I mean, we just have to study the past in order to see the future.
Nice. As a guy who is in his mid-40s, I got a lot of past to look at, so I appreciate it. Thanks.
Brilliant, and it's a beautiful past.
Thanks, Joel. And I do see Steve made it to the stage, so we'll give Steve an opportunity to ask a question. Hi, Steve.
Well, good afternoon. Let's see. Number one, Jay, I have so many things. Number one, are you done with that cookie?
No, I got one more cookie left.
Oh, shoot. No, I wanted the one that AJ had that you pulled the slip out of.
No, I ate that thing. Oh. Are you kidding me? Look at me.
Damn. All right, fine. Number two, 3D printing. I neglected to send you a post that I spotted on Jesus of the Day that was from a saying that a biotech company has managed to score 3D printed fake rhino horns that carry the same genetic fingerprint as the actual horn. And the company plans to flood Chinese rhino horn market at 1/8 of the price of the original, undercutting the price so that poachers can get and forcing them out eventually. And I went, oh my God, that's brilliant. Anyway.
That is amazing.
I've been working on a book, and it's talking about how to start your career after getting out of school. And one of the topics certainly is what are these skills that people are looking for the next generation? And I break it down between lighting designers and costume, et cetera, but certainly I get into props. And I typically go ahead and break it between manual skills, such as upholstering or certainly 3D printing, and then I get into software skills. Do you have any sort of list as to what you see mentally when you look at young people's resumes that are up and coming next generation proptologists that you go, ooh, that's a great skill that I've never seen before. I'm working on this project. I definitely need to get them on my team.
Procreate, which is a system of drawing.
Oh, sorry.
No, Procreate. Not Procreate. Well, you can do that too. But Procreate is really great because it is a lot easier, and you get a lot more to do than Photoshop. So that's what I love to see. I also love to see that they have carpentry skills, because unfortunately, carpentry, it's like riding a bike. A lot of kids don't ride bikes anymore because they are they are sedentary. They stay inside, so they have a lot of software skills, but not a lot of hands-on skills. So I think if they know the traditional ways, it's a lot better, because someone who has a foundation, you can teach them to use those foundations in almost anything, but that deals with hand-eye coordination that they need. So that's what. If you want to talk about it offline, we could redo that. But
sure. No, I'm just thinking being able to work with shop tools, then certainly working with awls, leatherworking, all of the crafts work that you've done that I've seen on your website and stuff. Certainly that would be included, but it ranges from the manuals to the softwares and knowing Illustrator or Procreate or Canva or that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
All right. Is there like a third category? Is there specific 3D printing skills that are starting to come out now that should be included on resumes?
I think robotics is the next one. There's a great book that just came out called Making Things Move, and it's a book for electronics and Raspberry Pi for artists. So it's about artists making animatronics. And Steve, the market is totally changing, not just from theater, but live entertainment, like parks and theme parks, is going to be a lot of the future.
Very cool. Okay. Great. Thank you, dear. Great seeing you.
All right, baby. It's good seeing you. My best to your wife, all right?
Will do. All right. And now back
I love you, man.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for coming up here with some great questions. You know, Jay, as you guys were talking about sort of both Joel's question and Steve's question about sort of what might be the next big thing, I think we have to throw virtual reality and augmented reality in there as well, which is a little bit of what you were talking about, is how can we do the old vaudevillian ghost trick with current technologies, and whether it's holograms or AR, VR stuff, I think that we're going to see a lot of that on the horizon.
Especially COVID. COVID started some of that. There were kids in, I think it was one of the, maybe Chapel Hill, North Carolina, or one of the schools down in North Carolina, that the show, you could walk physically through the show.
Wow. You know, with so much immersive theater being so in vogue, whether that's, Sleep No More is maybe the most famous example of it recently, but with so much immersive theater and sort of walk-through theater, I think there's a lot to be said about the virtual reality as it impacts entertainment design. So, could be very interesting to watch if folks are looking for the next big thing.
Yeah, and the one thing that you're going to need on those, of course, is the details, and that's where prop people come in. I mean, Sleep No More, unless it had those, like every little detail, like inside of the drawers, inside of the books, it's just that's important. I mean, that's really important.
Sure, Meow Wolf in Santa Fe isn't the same experience if you don't get to thumb through the family's photo album in the living room.
Exactly.
If nobody knows what I'm talking about with Meow Wolf, go to the website, check it out. It's weird and awesome. Well, look, Jay, I know we could do this for another probably hour or two. I would love to even consider having you back as a guest some other time, but maybe we should draw it to a close. Any parting words for our audience?
Last fortune cookie. Live out of your imagination instead of out of your memory.
All right, you had to plant these. These are made up.
No, as honest to God, my partner and I were here, and we had Chinese food, and these are the fortune cookies that we have, and seriously, that's them.
All right. Well,
I will send you these. I will send you the fortune cookies. That way, you know that I'm not just I'll send you the fortune cookie things that you can put on the in your office.
Well, I would welcome them. I would hang them right next to the golden bathroom tiles you gave me from the set of Julius Caesar.
Brilliant.
All right, folks, if you want to learn more about Jay Duckworth or re-enter the Propmaster's Cabinet of Curiosities, I can't recommend enough. Either follow him on Instagram or take the plunge and get on TikTok and follow him in there. The content that Jay pushes out is educational, it's entertaining, it's occasionally hilarious and occasionally touching, and I can't thank you enough, Jay, for sharing your warmth and your guidance and your experiences and your expertise with us today. You're one of the best. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so very much, and thank you all for coming. And please come back Tuesday to listen to AJ. So much good stuff that they have to share.
Yeah, that's Tuesday the 8th of June, so not next week, but the week following. We're going to be having another one of these exciting Rosco Lives and diving right in. Nikki, why don't you take the floor and close us out?
Thanks so much, Jay. Your fortune cookies are way better than mine. Mine usually tell me to eat more vegetables, which is probably also true. But I just want to thank everybody else for coming today. It was a really great conversation, very inspirational. And if you want to hear this again or share it with friends who missed today's conversation, we will have it up soon for you to listen to. You can go to rosco.com/live. That's where we house all of our previous conversations, and as well as post the future conversations that are coming up. And speaking of that, to reiterate what Chad just said, on June 8th, Tuesday at 4 p.m., we will be talking to Asia Jackson here on the Entertainment Design Club. So add that to your calendar. It's already up on the calendar here. And you just hit the little bell and it'll set a reminder for you, and join the club if you haven't already. So also, if you need to reach out to us directly with any feedback or suggestions of some great conversations that we can have, you can also email us at live@rosco.com. And thanks everyone, and we will see you next time.
Thanks everybody.